An entitled angry FedEx driver freaks out and yells at my movers who are moving me into my new house as they were blocking the street and preventing him from going on his way. Things got so bad that there was nearly a fight between the FedEx driver and my crew who was moving me in, and I've honestly never been more frustrated with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm moving into a home in a newly built community. We're the first home in the cul-de-sac, and the street is busy on move-in day. I've got contractors working on a new fence, my moving truck is just showing up, and by coincidence, my neighbor across the street is also moving in, and his truck arrived at the same time. The movers have the street totally blocked off, but they're taking turns moving to let people through when needed, and then moving back to where they're unloading. Well, there's a FedEx truck with an entitled driver inside of it. He gets past the trucks into the back of the cul-de-sac, makes the delivery, and then comes back to leave, but he is blocked by the trucks. Now, I'm in my house talking to my movers so they know where stuff goes, and it's then that I hear a fight going on outside. I can hear the entitled FedEx driver screaming and cursing at everyone outside. He's yelling at the movers, the fence guys, my wife. The fencing guys offer to move their truck and let him out, and this guy starts screaming out more swear words. So the fence crew is like, cool, we're not gonna move now, and I guess you gotta wait. And they're starting to get really heated because of how this guy is talking in front of my wife. And make no mistake, if this FedEx guy wants to pick a fight with these guys, he is definitely going into a hole. The crew lead from the other moving crew comes out to try and settle things. He's this big guy leading in real smooth and apologetic. He says to him, hey man, I'm sorry, I'll move my truck as soon as I pick up this ramp. Well, this entitled jerk not only yells out some awful swear words, but he also makes some really racist remarks, all while screaming that we need to get out of the street. Well, this lead then loses it, with his crew holding him back while he starts yelling. My crew is just watching from inside, watching all of this go down. They say, should we go down and try to solve this? And at one point, this entitled FedEx driver is pouting in his truck, blocking my movers in the driveway. I said to him, no, I'll just call the police and I'll let them sort it out. This guy isn't going anywhere. But before I could call, the other moving crew lead calms down enough to move his truck, and the FedEx guy peels out, almost hitting the fence truck. My poor neighbor is just standing there embarrassed. They say to me, yeah, that's awkward. I work for FedEx Corporate. Well, apparently, the entitled driver apparently works as an independent contractor running FedEx routes because he has been back almost every single day delivering heavy furniture to all the new homes on the block. And the next day, he couldn't park directly in front of his target house because my fencing guys were back, and they just stared at him while he shot them nasty looks and mumbled under his breath as he wrangled what must have been a bedroom set down the street to whomever ordered it. Now, I've got some large deliveries coming myself in the next few days, and if I answer the door for him, I'm gonna ask him if he intends on apologizing to my wife for the way that he spoke to her. I doubt I'll get anything from him because entitled jerks like this only have so much respect they can give. So it really seems like there's fun and drama on day one in my new house. Wow, that's really surprising of that FedEx driver. Who in their right mind would not welcome a little bit of a break from the chaos? Like, delivery truck drivers have an awful job sometimes. They are very rarely appreciated for their hard work, and most times people are upset because their stuff isn't there right when they want it. Like, if I saw two trucks blocking the road, I would happily park my truck and be like, yeah man, take your time. I'll happily wait and take a breather until you get your truck moved. Like, maybe it's just me, but I would happily welcome the break from the monotony. So yeah, the way that guy acted was so uncalled for, and I absolutely think you should confront him if he comes to your house, because the way he talked to your wife is unacceptable, and if I was in your shoes, I would not take that for another second. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not siding with my fiancé after my parents wanted to invite 8 additional people to our wedding? Because right now, my fiancé is putting his foot down and saying no. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiancé and I are getting married in September. Originally, we wanted to have a reception with 85 people there, but the venue I really wanted stated that we had to invite 100 people. So we went ahead with the venue that I wanted and invited 100 people. After the invitations had been sent out, my parents were upset to find out that we did not invite 4 of their closest friends and their spouses, but they thought that it would not be a big deal to ask us to invite 8 more people. Now, my parents are the extremely generous type, and I am very spoiled. For this wedding alone, they've brought forward $10,000, which by the way pays for more than half the wedding, and my mom paid for my wedding dress. And their generosity goes beyond what they have paid for the wedding. They helped me get through university debt-free, they paid for a portion of my house down payment, they helped me buy buy a new car, and have just all around been there for me emotionally. And for all this, I want to invite these guests to make them happy, as it would make me happy, and I want to show them that I appreciate all that they've done for me, which would be a lot easier than paying them back. Now, my fiance does not share this opinion and insists that this wedding cannot go above 100 people. He agreed to inviting them after the RSVP date, provided space became available, but I really think that most guests that were invited will say yes. I explained to him that I want to show my parents my appreciation for all they've done for me, but he states he will sooner give them their money back than invite these 8 guests. We have had several arguments and I've shed many tears over the issue, but he will not budge. He thinks my parents are jerks because of the last-minute attempt to change our guest list, and I think he's being a jerk for being unreasonably stubborn, and perhaps I am the jerk for not taking his side on all of this, because after all, it was me who wanted the bigger venue. Now, my parents are not these filthy rich people or anything like that. They are hardworking, self-made people who continue to work and save to get where they are today. Growing up, we were actually lower middle class, and my parents have only recently found success. They do not go on trips or treat themselves. They just want me and my siblings to be happy. My fiance, on the other hand, grew up much more well off than me, all the way up until his parents decided to go through the world's messiest divorce. Now, when the list was 85 people, the invite list was lopsided in my direction as I have a huge family. All of the 15 extra people are from his side of the family, so there are 46 people coming from his side and 54 on my side. My parents and my fiance have gotten along very well up until this point. My parents love him and he loves them, and we were a happy family before all of this garbage. He still tells me that he loves my family, but right now we are having an argument. So honestly, am I in the wrong in this situation? What should I do? So in my opinion, it really seems like your fiance is being very stubborn. Like literally, it's just 8 people. It's not like they're adding like 50 new people onto the list. Like it really is a small handful of people, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any more people added to the list after that. Like this is just like last minute people that didn't get invited the first time around. So it makes me question why your fiance is so adamant that 8 people aren't allowed to show up to the wedding. Like that's really weird to me, and I just don't think that's something that really you should be so stubborn on. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your fiance's acting weird, and in my opinion, I absolutely think those 8 people should be invited. Am I the jerk for naming my son after my father instead of my father-in-law? Because right now my father-in-law is freaking out, and he is furious that we chose my father over him. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently had twins with my husband. I love my baby so much, but the labor was a nightmare for me. It was extremely traumatic for my husband and I, and we've agreed that we are definitely not having any more kids. I was laboring for 2 days, and throughout the process, we kept our families updated. When they were finally able to visit, my parents and my in-laws came to see me. Everyone was fussing over the babies, and my poor husband, who only had about 4 hours of sleep for the whole 2 days, was napping. My dad, however, sat by me first and just held my hand for just a little bit. When I told him to go get some cuddles in with the twins, he said that I'm here to see my baby, meaning me. It was honestly so sweet, and I started tearing up. I didn't even realize how invisible I felt when my husband was sleeping, and my dad was there to make sure I was also being taken care of. He took me down to the hospital cafe, and we had breakfast together while the babies were with everyone else. I kept thinking about what my dad did for the next few days, and I decided that I would give my newborn son my father's name as his middle name. Now, my husband was totally on board with this. However, this is where the problems began. We knew my father-in-law would be pretty upset about this. He always wanted a grandson named after him, but it's pretty clear now that he won't get one. He has 2 sons, my husband and his younger brother, and my brother-in-law is gay, and currently says he doesn't want to adopt kids in the future. My father-in-law is also one of those people who cares about bloodlines, so I don't think he'd want an adopted grandson after him. And trust me, I know how messed up that is. My husband has a very complicated relationship with his father, so he wasn't comfortable naming our son after him, but we agreed to give them the same initials, and he accepted this. But when he found out we were switching the middle name to my father, he lost his mind. He said that this was something he always wanted, and we were throwing it in his face by giving the baby my father's name as his middle name. I tried to explain why, but he cut me off and said that it was absurd to expect someone to check on me when there were babies that had just been born, and my father shouldn't be rewarded for ignoring his grandchildren. I tried to explain that it was more than just the moment, because my dad has been my best friend for my entire life, but he just didn't want to hear it. My mother-in-law is now saying that we're jerks for doing this because my dad doesn't care about any grandchildren being named after him, but my father-in-law has always wanted it. According to her, we are taking something away from him just because my dad chose to do something unusual usual, which to them was ignore the babies until he was satisfied with me being okay. And for the record, he did not ignore the kids. He got plenty of time when he got back from breakfast. Now, my dad is honored by our choice, but thinks that we shouldn't have done it because of what it means to my father-in-law. So honestly, are we in the wrong for what we did? Because honestly, at this point, I really don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your father-in-law is freaking out over something so petty. Like seriously, who in their right mind is this obsessed about bloodlines and names? Maybe it's just me and the way I grew up, but that stuff is so archaic in my opinion that it just does not hold up. So the way he's acting to me seems really strange. Like he's not only being selfish in this decision, but he's also acting like you owe him something. And if your father-in-law really wanted a baby named after him so badly, he could have given his own name to one of his kids. Like this is such a dumb argument in my opinion, and it is just so toxic that he's making this into such a big deal. In my opinion, this is your baby, so you get to choose exactly what you want to name it. And anyone else who wants to stick their nose in your business, in my opinion, has no right or even a say in the matter. My entitled manager micromanages every aspect of my job, demanding constant updates to everything that I do, while also demanding that he's included in all of my emails that I send out. So I decided to maliciously comply by including him literally in every email I send throughout the day, resulting in him getting his inbox flooded and me finally getting some kind of break from his weird oversight. Here's what happened. A little over a year ago, I found myself stepping into the role of senior project manager for a long-standing client I'd been managing for quite some time. The transition into this new position seemed promising until I began to realize the management style of my new boss, someone with whom I had never interacted during my previous role, and it quickly became apparent that he had a penchant for micromanagement. One instance that stands out vividly is when he questioned me via Slack about why he hadn't been invited to an internal team call. I explained my reasoning, assuring him that I had everything under control and his input wasn't necessary for this particular decision. However, his micromanagement tendencies didn't end there. He began requesting updates on my lunch breaks, expecting notifications when I stepped away and returned, despite my Slack status indicating my availability. Furthermore, he insisted on being informed of my daily login and logout times, regardless of his own online status. He even wanted me to outline my daily tasks within my outline calendar hour by hour. The situation escalated when he expressed discontent over not being included in client communication emails, despite receiving comprehensive updates during our weekly catch-up meetings. Despite my efforts to keep him informed through detailed reports and follow-up emails, he insisted that he will be included in every single correspondence, citing transparency as his primary concern. I started to feel that I wasn't trusted and started to doubt my ability within my role. I battled with myself and wondered what I was doing so wrong. So I thought to myself, okay, I guess it's time to maliciously comply. So you want to be included into every single email? Fine, that's exactly what you're gonna get. And I began doing just that, whether it was directly relevant to our projects or not. From routine communications with colleagues to mundane requests for IT support or office supplies. His inbox soon overflowed with 20 to 30 pointless emails every single day. Now, remarkably, not a single complaint about transparency surfaced thereafter, only complaints about getting too many emails. It seems that inundating him with every conceivable email served as the perfect solution to his insatiable desire for oversight. And I honestly never felt better about maliciously complying in my life. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, anyone who micromanages their employees is honestly a terrible person. And I don't say that lightly. Like, it's one thing if your employee is just not doing their job, and you definitely need to be there to try and question and make sure they're doing it right. But if you have a competent employee who does know what they're doing, and you're still coming at them and being like, oh yeah, I need daily updates on everything that you're doing. I want to be included in all your emails, please. Like, that's obnoxious, and you are not a good manager if you do that. You're only going to irritate people who really do know what they're doing, and it's going to cause people to want to quit their job. So I love the way that the original poster handled this, because they basically said, okay, you're getting every email I get, whether you like it or not. And in my opinion, if someone wants to micromanage, then it's time to do exactly what the original poster did and overwhelm them until they stop. Am I the jerk for asking a neighbor to keep his dog out of my yard, as he constantly lets his dog go to the bathroom in the same yard that my kids play in? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I lived in my house for 10 years, and when we bought it, it was a corner lot off a major neighborhood street. It had a grass yard with no fence, and due to my grass yard, I would regularly see dog owners use it as a bathroom. Most people would clean it up, and some would not. But either way, I thought it was rude. The year I had my first kid in 2019, I put up a small fence that only goes up about 8 to 10 inches, and it was significantly more cost-effective to do this than build one that is 3 to 4 feet high, because I just wanted a barrier to keep my young kids in my yard. And on top of that, I think the look my house has is much better with a shorter fence. Now, I have a 4- and 2-year-old that play in the front yard nearly every day, and I recently started noticing via my Ring camera that a guy is letting his dog into my yard and letting it go to the bathroom. In fact, this morning, I went outside to clean up some toys that were left out, and that very guy had his golden retriever in my yard over the fence. I said to him, "Hey, get off of my property." And he said that he was just passing by to let his dog go through the grass since I have such a nice yard. Well, I told him not to ignore the fence, and I have on video his dog going to the bathroom in my yard. And he just says, "Yeah, well, you also have on video of me picking it up." I told him I didn't want his dog going to the bathroom in my yard ever again. I stated that my kids play in the yard, and I asked him again to get his stupid dog out of my yard, which at this point he still had not done. He says I'm not very neighborly, and that without a park in the neighborhood, my yard is the next best option. And when he told me that, I told him to get the heck out of here. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I really don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. You said it yourself. You have kids that play in that yard, and that guy's a moron if he's gonna sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, your house is the next best thing. We don't have a park in this neighborhood. Sorry. I'm just gonna let my dog go to the bathroom in your yard. Sorry about that." Like, this is some absurd kind of entitlement that seriously is uncalled for. And here's the thing, even though you do clean up after your dog, it doesn't mean that there's not still like stuff left over, if you know what I mean. And I bet your kids are running around and rolling in the grass, so you can bet all of that's getting on their clothing. Like, that is so uncalled for and so disgusting. Like, any normal neighbor who wants to be neighborly, by the way, would have been apologetic instead of doubling down. Like, this guy's trying to act like you're not a good neighbor. Meanwhile, he's letting his dog go to the bathroom on your yard. Like, that's highly inappropriate, and seriously, I would not take that for a second. And I think if I was in your shoes, the next time he shows up, I would definitely have him trespassed by the police. Like, the fence alone should be a dead giveaway that you are not welcome in the yard. And now that you have extra proof against him, if he does ever try to come back with his stupid dog, you will have more than enough evidence to try and get him in trouble. Am I the jerk for supposedly lying to my sister after I got a boyfriend, as my sister thinks that I tricked her when I started dating my current boyfriend? Because right now my sister is very upset, and despite me feeling like I didn't do anything wrong, I seriously now am at a loss and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm gonna start this by saying I don't think I'm in the wrong, but maybe another perspective could help me out. I'm a 17-year-old female and I don't like makeup. I've tried it before, but I don't like how it looks on me, so I never wear any. However, my sister, who's 19, loves makeup and refuses to leave the house without any on. When we were in school together, my sister would get mad when I got attention from boys and she didn't. Even when I was younger, she would bring up that I don't wear makeup or put much effort into my looks, so it didn't make sense for boys to like me more. Now, I did put effort into my appearance, by the way, just not to the same level as her. And she would always try to get between me and any guy she thought was interested in me, even though most of the guys were just actually friends, and we laughed at her for thinking that they were into me. And this is nothing that I ever minded because I was never into them either. Well, apparently this embarrassed her, and I guess she still hasn't let it go. But with that bit of context out of the way, here's what's mainly going on. I recently got a boyfriend. He's an old friend and one of the ones that said he wasn't into me a few years ago. Things changed recently and we're pretty happy together. We've only been together for 2 months, so we haven't told that many people, including my sister. Well, she was in town for the weekend visiting from her university, and she happened to arrive when our parents weren't home, and my boyfriend and I were cuddling on the couch watching TV. He noticed her first and said hi, and she looked confused for a minute, then started bawling and running up to her room, slamming the door. Well, that freaked us both out. Apparently, she called our mom when she got into her room because she came home right away. She told us my sister said we humiliated her, but we didn't do anything. And when we told mom what happened, she was just as confused as we were. Well, my mom got my sister to come out of her room, but she was still crying. It took a few minutes for her to calm down, but then she started screeching at me that I was a liar and a brat and that I had humiliated her. Now, when I asked how I did that, since I didn't even talk to her before she started freaking out, she said it was because of my boyfriend. We said before that we didn't like each other, but now it was unfair because we lied to her. I told her we didn't lie, but she could not hold us to something that we said years ago. Feelings sometimes change, but apparently she remembers when we laughed at her for thinking thinking we liked each other back then, and how she got so much backlash from her friends for it, and now we're together so we are humiliating her for nothing. Then she started going on her usual rant of how I don't wear makeup and I don't dress as nice as her, so it's not fair that I have a boyfriend and she doesn't. Well, I told her that she was being delusional and she cannot keep blaming me for her being single. Well, she started to bawl again and ran into her room. Now, my boyfriend and mom are on my side that she's being overdramatic, but my dad thinks that I could have worded things nicer because she spent most of the weekend crying. And honestly, at this point, I don't even know what to do because I seriously do not think that I'm in the wrong. No, you are definitely not the jerk in this story. Like, seriously, your sister is being insane. Like, she's not only incredibly jealous of you and how you get more attention than her, but she's also tried to sabotage pretty much any potential relationship you could have. Like, that sounds absolutely obnoxious, and I would not want to deal with that. Like, if I had a sibling who treated me like that and treated me so poorly all the time, I would get super frustrated and say, yeah, I don't like you either. And honestly, who is she to say who you can and can't date? If you want to get back with someone who you didn't initially like, then that is honestly none of her business. Just because you got in a relationship doesn't mean that somehow you're putting down your sister. Like, those two are literally not connected. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I think your sister is absolutely being overdramatic, and I think your dad is just trying to take your sister's side to try and make her feel better. Because overall, you did nothing wrong, and in my opinion, I think your sister is acting super weird. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.